almost 11 o'clock. I'm turning my phone down. It's, what is today? Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? April 14th. Today's Tuesday, April 14th. We're live. I think we're live. Anybody out there? Be sure and give us a little comment. Type in a little comment. Let us know you're there.
Harper.
Hi, Harper. This is Bay's niece, I think. Hi, Harper. So is Bay out there, or Finley?
Emily.
Emily's out there. Hi, Emily. Let's see, who else? Hi, Sophia. Hi, Casey. Hi, Alicia. Brandon. Hi, Brandon. He's my birthday boy. He likes Ford cars. We drew a very cool car. Didn't we, Brandon? And Mr. Joey remembers your Ford car.
Dana.
And Mia and Evie. Do I see Mia and Evie out there?
Adeline and Sadie.
Mia is getting way too tall, Mia. You have to stop growing. You're making Evie look very short.
Adeline and Sadie.
Adeline and Sadie. Hi, girls. I have lots of people that'll be fun to meet one day. Maybe this summer we'll be able to have summer camp and I can meet all of you that I've learned your names.
Jackson and Alexis.
Hi, Jackson. Hi, Alexis.
Morgan C.
And Morgan C. I got my 2 Morgans out there. My Olivias need to put their last initial too. I think I got 3 Olivias.
Ava, Valentina, and Alex. Sarah.
Alex and Valentina, they just joined me. I think I talked to your mom the other day.
Sarah Elizabeth.
And Sarah Elizabeth. Hi, Sarah Elizabeth. Sarah Elizabeth's been doing art with her mom, and now they're doing them together online because they're not together this week. So I saw your fireworks yesterday, Sarah Elizabeth. They looked really cool, and your mom's turned out really cool. Did you see the picture of your mom's? So even if you weren't right next to each other, they turned out really awesome. So we are doing a little Carolina Wren today. Figured we have to do something that has to do with South Carolina. So see our chubby little fat little Carolina Wren. I bet you've seen them in your backyard. They're really tiny. Carolina Wrens aren't very big. They're only about like this big. And they're brown. They have a little yellowish, orangish tummy to them, and they're these fat little chubby round birds. So we're going to draw one of those today and use our colored pencils on the white paper, because then you can really see how we can shade with colored pencils. You can press hard with them, you can press light with them. We can get all kinds of really nice shadows with them. So we're going to make a little Carolina Wren. We're going to be a little impressionistic today. We're going to make an impressionistic tree. We're going to draw our bird, and then we're going to make an impressionistic tree. So if we've got most people signed in, who else would I be watching for that I haven't heard? Is Nick there?
Lydia and Patrick.
Hi, Lydia. Hi, Patrick.
Ava, Sarah.
Ava and Sarah. I think we probably got most people on. So what we need today is find your pencil. Usually every day we need our pencil. So you found a pencil at your house. You should have your little white eraser out of your activity bag and your Sharpie marker. We're going to draw with our pencil first. And then we'll use our Sharpie a little bit. We're going to be kind of impressionistic with our Sharpie today. And then we need one of these white pieces of paper. You had 2 of these clipped on your board. So we're going to use one today. And we're going to use one tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Sam Martin's on.
Sam! Hi, Sam! That's a friend of mine, and he's up in Charleston.
We were supposed to be at his church.
And we were supposed to get to go to his church, and then we were shut in with the virus. One piece of white paper. We're going to use our other piece tomorrow. We're going to do this really goofy summer picnic project tomorrow. We're going to pretend we're allowed to all go out and have a giant picnic together. And we're going to make watermelon and ants crawling all over it. But today we're going to draw our little Carolina Wren. So I'm going to show you how simple it is to draw this really fat, chubby little bird. So the other thing you need is your set of colored pencils. There we go, I got them. Our set of colored pencils, I put mine in my little cup yesterday, so I didn't have to put the rubber band back around them. So you got 12 of them. We're going to use just about every color you've got today. So get your colored pencils out. Find yourself a pencil sharpener if you need to sharpen them from yesterday. I had to sharpen mine again today. And I see that's my Sharpie I want to use. That's a good one too. Put that one back there. Okay, so you got your Sharpie, you got your pencil, you got your eraser. Get your one of these little pieces of white paper, and then get your colored pencils out, okay? Find yourself a pencil sharpener if you don't have one. And I think I used almost every color in our set for our little Carolina Wren. For the Carolina Wren himself, we didn't use a lot of colors. Can you guess what we used? We used a little bit of brown. We used a little bit of yellow. What other color do you see? A little bit of orange. We used a little bit of black to make some shadows. And see all the white on my Carolina Wren? He's got a little bit of white around his head and on his neck. That's the paper. So we're actually going to use the paper for one of our colors today. So if you are ready, I'm going to have Joey move the camera in so you'll be able to see. I got to switch my chair around. Mr. Joey's going to put it where he wants it. And I promised him I wouldn't kick it today. Sam, you can draw a Carolina Wren with us? You can put it on the front door of your church and it will look cheerful. Okay, can we see okay if we do this? I'm going to overlap my paper a little bit on our little finished product there. And we're just going to start with our pencil and our eraser first. So if I look at our picture here, I look at my whole piece of paper, I put it horizontal. You could do it vertical if you want. We just have to make sure we give him enough room for his long tail. Carolina Wrens have this long pointy tail on their short, fat, round, chubby body. So you could do it vertical if you want. I put my paper horizontal so I had plenty of room to stick his tail on there. And I kind of put him almost right there in the middle. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw the bird first with his legs. And then we're going to bump and jump the tree limb so it fits right where his feet are. When I first did this project, I drew my tree limb first. And then I drew my bird, and he looked really cool, and I had drawn him so close to the tree limb I didn't have any room to fit his legs on. So it's actually easier if we draw our bird first, and then we'll bump and jump our limb in between his feet. So I'm going to overlap this just a little, just so I have more space for you to see on the table here. And we're going to start by drawing his little body here. And his body is like one big fat circle with his little head up here, isn't it? So what we're going to do is we're going to start here underneath his beak, and we're going to draw this nice swooping line like we're going down a hill, down a big roller coaster. And when we get to the bottom, we're going to make this big letter C. Kind of backwards letter C, isn't it? If it was a letter C, it would be facing that way. So pick a spot. We want to make our Carolina Wren nice and big too. Don't make him really tiny in the middle of the paper there, because we want to have lots of room to put all these cool colors of your colored pencils. This is our first project where you can really use your colored pencils and get lots of neat shadows. So don't make them too small, but pick a spot right here in the middle. I'm going to make mine really big. I think even bigger than he is there. So I'm going to start at the edge of his beak. And remember, I'm going to press hard with my pencil so you can see my lines, but you don't need to press as hard as I'm pressing. because we're going to go over your lines with a little bit of Sharpie and use our colored pencils, and we don't need all those big thick pencil lines showing. So you don't have to press as hard as me, okay? We're going to start here at the point of his beak, and we're going to go just like you're on a roller coaster. We're going to go flat for just a little tiny bit, and then we're going to go swooshing down the hill. So I'm going to put him right in the middle here, over this way a little bit, and I'm going to draw underneath his beak. Going to go flat just a little bit, and then I'm going to go swooshing down the hill. When I get to the bottom of the hill, I'm going to give myself like a letter C here, like a backwards letter C, like I'm making part of a circle. So we started out right underneath his beak, going flat for a little ways, and then we went swooshing down the hill. It gets a nice little curve to it, and when you get to the bottom of the hill, instead of getting to get off the roller coaster, we're going to go up into a circle. This is going to take us right up to here. Now, does he have a very long beak? Yeah, I made my Carolina Wren nice and fat. Mr. Joey's looking at me like he's chubby. My Carolina Wren just had a big breakfast and he's nice and chubby. He doesn't have a very wide beak, so I'm going to start out here at the point. And right from the point, I'm going to make another line go right over the top, but I'm going to keep them pretty close together. He doesn't have a very wide beak. Okay? Now his head, compared to this big old fat belly he's got, his head's not very curvy, is it? So I'm going to come back a little ways on his beak, and I'm going to give him just a little bit of a curve for his head. Just like a little bit of a frown for his head. I can make the rest of his beak curve right here too. Now I got to connect. He's got this big fat tummy we drew. I've got his head up here. I got to connect the rest of his little back. His back, look at the line of his back. His back's almost flat compared to his big fat belly here. He's got almost a little flat back. So I'm going to come from where I drew his head here. I'm going to overlap the little end of his head here. I'm going to draw his little back. But I'm not going to go all the way down here because I want to put his tail on. This would be like his little back, his little rear end back here. He does look like a very fat Carolina Wren, doesn't he? Now, look at his tail. His tail is like a very long, stretched out triangle. Almost looks like one of those tall, skinny hats like they wore in Harry Potter. What was that called? A sorting hat? Or a long, skinny ice cream cone upside down. So I want his tail to come from the back of him here. I probably don't really need my little line coming in here, so I'm going to erase a little bit of that line. There we go. Because this is his back that comes up to where I put him here. Okay? So I want to put his tail on right back here. See where my pencil's going? Let's decide. His tail doesn't go just straight back, does it? It doesn't go straight up, does it? So we're going to put it on a little bit of an angle like that. And let's see how big his tail is. Here's how big I drew his tail, which is about as big as his tummy. So let's see. I got a tummy about this wide. So I'm going to make his tail, I'll give myself a little dot there, about that long. I'm going to come.
Oh, they aren't pointed.
I'm going to bring his little tail up here. Whoops, I got to move my paper out from under. And we'll give him some little feathers on the end and bring his tail right back down. He is definitely a very fat Carolina Wren, isn't he? Maybe I need to give him a few little feathers on his little neck here. His neck looks a little skinny, doesn't it? So maybe we'll give him a few little extra feathers there so he doesn't have quite so skinny a neck. There we go. That looks a little better. What do you think? How's your Carolina Wren looking? Mine is like the fattest Carolina Wren I've ever seen. If you don't want your Carolina Wren that fat, what would we do? lots of times here in the studio, if we draw something and when we look at it, we go, well, I kind of wish it looked a little different. That's the joy of being the artist. You can make it look as different as you want. I kind of think he's cute that fat, but if I didn't want him quite that fat, we call it giving him plastic surgery here. So I could put him on a little diet, and I could decide his belly's not going to be quite so fat, and maybe I'll chop off a little bit there. Let's see. And maybe Joey won't be laughing at him so much. What do you think? Oh, now he looks like he might actually be able to fly. He doesn't look quite so fat. We need to give him a little bit of a wing sticking out on the side here. So I'm going to come over here and give him a little bit of curve, right, coming from his middle of his body there. And we'll give him a little curve coming out here. Put some feathers on the end there, so I can erase that little line that came up from his belly. There we go. What do you think? He looks like a Carolina Wren. He looks like a very chubby Carolina Wren. Carolina Wrens have these pretty little tiny round black eyes, and they're right by their little beak there. So I'm going to give him a little round black eye there. Okay. Now, what's the one thing we haven't given him? He's still very fat, isn't he? We need to give him his legs. Now, his legs are on a little bit of an angle. See my pencil there? There's one leg. This leg's a little straighter down, and they come from back here in the middle of his tummy. We don't want to put his legs way up here. So we're going to put them back here in the middle of his tummy. And I'm going to give him one side of his leg on a little diagonal here. Their legs aren't very long, not like a heron. And then I'm going to put a line right next to it. They don't have very long, or they don't have very fat legs. So there's one leg, and I'll make the other one come a little straighter down. That leg got really skinny. We might make that one a little wider. Okay, we got two legs. How are you guys doing? Did you have to give your bird plastic surgery? Did he get too fat? He could be a really fat Carolina Wren if you wanted him to. You got two legs on there? Send us a little comment. Let us know. Do you know how many claws, little toes birds have? They have two that curl in the front, and they have one that's like their toenail that curves at the back. That's how they hold on to a branch. If this was the branch, they'd have two claws holding on to the front, and their other claw would be holding on to the back. So we're actually going to see two claws on the front, and we're going to make a big curve right here. I make another curve that meets it, and I make another curve there, kind of like you're making a little fingernail moon, like a crescent moon. And then I'm going to give him his two claws on the front here. And we're just going to see a little bit. I'm only going to put the top of that claw on, because that'll go behind our limb we're going to give him. We got to give him something to sit on. He's too fat to keep flying around too much. Okay.
Stella's on.
Hi, Stella May. That's my granddaughter. She logs on to say hi to Gigi. Hi, Stella May. Oops. I bumped Mr. Joey, Uncle Joey's camera. Okay. Before I get my Sharpie out, I'm going to go ahead and figure out where to put my branch. We want him to be holding on to the branch, right? So if I put my pencil where his feet are, my branch is going to kind of come like this, right? So I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to make a line that angles down to where his feet are. I want the top of the branch to go near the top of his claws. When I bump into his claws, I'm going to stop. I'm going to jump over, keep going, bump into these claws, jump over, keep going. And I'll let my limb go right off the end of my paper there. Now, since we don't want him to look like he's hanging on a telephone wire, we'll make the other side of our branch. Now, look at my branch up here. This is very important when you draw trees or limbs or twigs or anything. They always start out a little thicker on one end, and the farther along they go, they keep getting skinnier and skinnier and skinnier. See how wide this end of the branch is? See how wide this end of the branch is? And when twigs and limbs go off the branch, they start out skinnier than the branch, and they keep getting skinnier. We never stop the twig till it's almost like just one single line. See how my twigs got so skinny together? They just turned into a line. So we're going to make the other side of the limb here. So I'm going to give it a little bit of thickness here, but remember we want his toes to be curling around. So I know it's going to get this skinny here. So I don't want to start out this fat. But I'm going to start out about here. I'm going to follow like a copycat line, but it's going to get a little closer and a little closer. So I bump into the bottom of his claws. Go in between his claws. Go on this side. Between those, and my limb's going to keep getting skinnier as it goes off the edge of the paper there. Oh, my limb's going to get really skinny. Look at that. So he's standing at the pretty much the end of this tree limb, isn't he? And since I kind of wanted to add some more trees, we're going to be impressionistic with our tree here. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm going to put a few more limbs and twigs coming off here. So I might come back here and add another limb that's going to come down here. Remember, back here it's going to be a little thicker. It's got to be thinner than it is here. So I'll start out maybe that close. And then it's going to get closer and closer till it just turns into a single line. So I can make a little bit go off this way. It's got to be skinnier than this, so it's going to turn into a line pretty soon. Then I can just make a few lines off of that. I can make a little limb come off here. You can create your own tree here. You get to be like Mother Nature here and create some trees. Where else could we put a limb? Kind of want to see his face, so I might put a limb back here maybe. So we could go this way, boom. And remember, I want to be no thicker than this, so I'm going to start out here. What if I stopped right here and broke it and went down that way? So you can have fun being Mother Nature here. Create some neat tree limbs. Gonna make another one go off that way. And then this one's gonna get so skinny it turns into a line. Any place else? What do you think? Kind of looks like a good amount. Add some more tree limbs. Let me know how you're doing. Have you got your bird on there? If we've got some tree limbs. My bird still looks he looks fat, but I think my bird's head looks a little small. I may give him a little bigger head here. Yeah, I think that might help my bird. Not only did his tummy look too big, but his head looked a little small. That's what's fun about being the artist. I want you to like your drawing. Oh, I like it much better with a little bigger head. Draw it with your pencil. That's why we use our pencil. Then if you don't like your drawing, I might think your drawing looks awesome, but the important thing is you're the artist, so you have to like your drawing. So that's why we use a pencil. That's why we put those cool white erasers in your activity bag. So you can get him looking just the way you like him. I do like it much better without such a big belly. That would have been too big of a lunch for him to eat. And I like that his head got a little bigger up here. I kind of like his tail, I think. Got kind of straight, so I might actually make his tail curve down here a little bit where it attaches to his body. So see, I'm just making all kinds of little adjustments on my bird here. Oh, I like that. That looks good. Are you guys liking yours? Send me some comments. Let me know if you're ready to do a little Sharpie. We're not going to put lines everywhere that we put pencil lines. And we're actually going to add some Sharpie lines that we haven't put on with our pencil. So we're going to be very impressionistic. Do you see how I have this nice leafy tree he's sitting on, and it's got a few little flower buds on it. But I didn't really draw all the leaves on here, did I? I didn't. I even colored where there aren't any Sharpie marks. But when you look at my picture, you get the impression of a very leafy tree, don't you? This is called being impressionistic. We're not going to draw everything we have to draw. We're just going to draw enough to give you the impression that we have a very leafy, flowery tree. Because I see reds and I see some blues, and this is actually a blue-green. That's one of our greens, I'll show you. So we gave the impression that he's landed in this nice flowering bush. Maybe he's sitting on an azalea bush, do you think? This would have been like a week or so ago with our azalea bushes because they're all gone. Are you guys ready to use some Sharpie? Okay. I'm going to, can we still see him if I put him up like this, Joey? No, keep it down here. Okay. Do you see how when I put my Sharpie lines on here, I didn't just follow the pencil line? I used some extra little lines so it looked like he had feathers on his neck. So I'm going to give him a nice smooth head here. I am going to put that line on. So I'll put his nice smooth head on there. And I can put his beak on here. And we can put his little eyeball on. I think I might move his eyeball. Well, I'm going to draw a little black circle here for his eyeball. Oops, I made it bigger. And I'm going to make a white triangle on one side of his eyeball. I think my eyeball got a little big, so you can make yours a little smaller. And I'm thinking I might make the other side of his beak come back there. Now on his neck, I want it to look a little feathery. So instead of just making a line come down like this, I'm going to turn my line into a couple feathery lines. And then I'll let his belly get some feathery lines too. Kind of makes him look like he's got a few little feathers hanging on him here. And here's his back. And I'm just going to put a few little lines there where his tail goes off. And we'll give him his little wing here. I'm going to put a few little lines inside his wing for his feathers there. See how I don't necessarily draw right where my pencil lines were, which is okay. We've got our eraser. I can take those pencil lines out before I use my pretty colored pencils. I'm going to give him his nice swooshing little tail that sticks up. I'm going to curve it up like this. I might make his tail a little skinnier. I'm going to give it feathers on the end of his tail and then swoop it back down. See, I gave my tail plastic surgery too. You can see my pencil line. I decided his tail was going to get a little skinnier as I put my Sharpie on there. Now I can come in, I want to give his legs, I'm going to color them all in with Sharpie here. Not color them in, but I'm going to go over all the lines with my Sharpie. Bring the other side of his leg down. And remember, we see just a little bit of that toe going on the other side. And I'll bring this one down. Curve his toe around. Curve this toe around. Bring the other side of his leg down. Don't forget that toe that goes in the back. Okay, you can use your Sharpie. We can go along our limb here. Remember, when you get to his feet, you want to stop, jump over, stop, jump over. I can go right out here on this limb that I made. Oops, my lines are getting a little wobbly, but that's okay because tree trunks don't look perfect like you had a ruler, do they? So if your lines get a little wobbly, that just makes it look more like a real tree. As long as your tree limbs keep getting skinnier as they go out. I'll put the other side on this tree limb. These are just turning into lines out there. Where did I stop? I gotta finish this limb here. Bring this side over here. I'm gonna go down here, out here, and just create this really awesome tree here. This tree limb's got all kinds of twigs on the end of it. And let's see, need the other side of that one. Did I get it all? I've got to get the bottom of the big limb. Remember when, if you run into his claws, stop, jump over where it would keep going. Stop, jump over, stop, jump over, stop, jump over. We did a lot of jumping. Okay, and this tree limb is going to go off there. What do you think? He's a very fat Carolina Wren. I think his eyeball's probably a little too big, but I like him. He looks cute. Maybe I'll make it a girl. We'll give her some eyelashes there. Now, give your Sharpie just a second to set up, because we're going to use our eraser to get rid of all those pencil lines. You might have been neater than me. You might have gone right over your pencil lines and you can't even see them. I skipped a bunch of my pencil lines and changed it around, so I'm going to use my eraser to get rid of all those pencil lines. And then I'm going to show you some really cool ways to shade with our colored pencils. While we let that Sharpie set up for a minute, look at our limb. I used brown on here, and look at all, I just used the one brown colored pencil we got, this one. And we got all these different shades. So when you press lightly with colored pencils, you get a real light shade of that color. And if you press a little harder, you get a darker shade. So we can make our tree limb look really round, because if one side looks lighter and one side looks darker, that's going to make it look nice and round. So colored pencils are really easy to do shading with. And look how cool the black looks on top of the brown. It gives it even a little darker shadow at the bottom of our limb. So we're going to do some fun shading with the colored pencils. First, I'm going to take my eraser. So I'm going to do some erasing here. You guys, if you have a lot of pencil lines, you don't like them showing, then go ahead and erase your pencil lines. I can still see a little bit of my pencil lines because I was pressing really hard with my pencil. But that's okay. My colored pencils were going to cover it up. So I'm going to erase the pencil lines where my tree limbs are, because I want to give the impression of leaves. I'm making all kinds of fuzzy eraser pieces on here. And back there. There we go. Think I got it all? I made a big mess, didn't I? Okay, I'm gonna tap all that off on the table. Try not to blow it on the floor, then Mom will just have to vacuum. Or you will have to vacuum, or Dad will have to vacuum. So brush it on the table. Try to keep all those crumbs on the table. Then we can put them in the trash. Okay, I'm gonna keep all my little eraser fuzzies over there. Oops, didn't get erased very well around his beak, did I? Okay, you got everything erased? Tell you where I started. I colored my bird first because I really like him. I think he's kind of cute. Well, this would be a she. I gave her eyelashes, didn't I? I usually never call anything a she, do I, Lydia? Lydia and Patrick, no, I always call everything a he. Because I got boys in my house. I'm used to saying he. Okay, I'm going to start with this brown that we had. It says brown on it. It's kind of a light chocolatey brown when you look at the end of the pencil. And I'm going to start, I want to show you on this tree limb first before we start on the bird. Because it's really fun to see if you press really lightly at the top of the tree limb here. We can press really lightly with the pencil. And then as we go from the top to the bottom of the limb, I'm going to press lightly. I'm going to start pressing a little harder and a little harder as I get to the bottom of the limb. So hardest down here at the bottom, and then like loosen the grip on your pencil and don't press as hard. Just press hard, press really hard down at the bottom. And see how I'm gripping my pencil? You always press harder when you grip your pencil hard. And then if I make yourself loosen up the grip on your pencil. And just make it go a little lighter and a little lighter. See how nicely that blends? Already makes the tree limb look a little more three-dimensional, doesn't it? Harder down here at the bottom, and then I loosen the grip, let go of your pencil a little bit, and that'll make you press lighter. Okay? So that was just a practice to see how you can shade with your pencil, your colored pencils. I'm going to come up here and start on my bird. I'm going to do his belly first. And I put some yellow here, and then I did some orange, and then I did some brown. I want to leave some white. Right in this area, we want to leave a little bit of white. So I'm going to take my yellow. And you see how my pencil strokes, you can see them right here, can't you? See how they're curving to match the curve of his belly? It kind of helps it look like feathers. It also helps him look round and not like he's a squashed flat pancake. So I'm going to start up here. I'm not going to go all the way up by his beak because I'm going to leave some white around his face. So I'm going to start a little ways down his neck. And I'm just drawing some lines. I'm leaving some white spaces in between my lines. You need me to lift this up, Mr. Joey? Okay. Yes. Okay. Can we see my yellow lines? Yellow is hard to see. See how I drew some curved lines that match the curve of our bird? But see how I left some white space in between them? We can always go back and add more color, but it's kind of nice to have the white of the paper to make things look light. So I'm going to put a few more yellow lines down here. I'm going to go right up under his wing here. I'm leaving some white spaces in between. I'm going to press harder with my yellow at the bottom of his belly here. Okay? That's all the yellow I'm going to put right now. I'm going to find this colored pencil that said orange on it. It's this one. It says orange on it. It's kind of like that middle of the red tones here. And I'm going to start about halfway back, like above his legs here. And I'm going to add some orange lines right on top of the yellow. Look how cool that looks, where you pressed hard with the yellow at the bottom of his belly. Go over it with a little bit of orange. Doesn't that look cool? And then where the orange lands in the white of the paper that you left, it's going to look even orangey-er. I like it on top of our yellow that we did. We're going to add some more orange as we go back to the back of him. Now this can get a little more solid back here because we don't want his back end to be too light. So I'm pressing kind of hard with my orange back here. I like the color the orange makes on top of the yellow. That looks pretty cool. Are you getting some cool shades with your orange and your yellow? I'm going to take my orange all the way to the back of his little tummy here, because then I'm going to put some brown on top of it. Okay, I got my brown back out. This is the brown that we were using on our tree limb here. I'm going to come back here at the back of his belly. I'm going to put some brown right on top of where I put that orange. It's not going to show up as the same color brown as it did on the tree limb because I'm putting it on top of yellow and on top of orange. So let me lift that up so you can see. See my brown on top of my, I colored yellow all the way to the back here. Then I put orange back here on top of the yellow. Now I put some brown on top of the yellow. Look at the cool shades of color that we get. It makes it look like his belly gets a little darker and more brown as it goes back, doesn't it? Most of the brown we see on our little Carolina Wren, we're going to see up here on his back and top of his head and his wing. But we want to get a little brown on the back of his belly here. Okay? So color a little bit of brown back there. I'm pressing kind of hard because I'm going on top of two colors there. I'm just going to keep the brown back here at the back of his tummy. Okay? Now, we'll give him a little color on his head. Look up at our Carolina Wren's head. Do you see how it has this nice swoop of white feathers that come almost in a little curved line from the top of his eyeball? And he also gets some white underneath his eyeball here. So I'm going to put some brown feathers, but I'm going to keep them right up near the top of his head here. Just like we drew curved lines for his belly, I'm going to make curved lines up here. I can make short little lines so they look like feathers. Remember, we can bring the brown down, but above his eye, I want to leave that blank. Okay, so now I'm going to come around in front of his eye with a little bit of brown. And I'm going to make a little streak of brown come out from the middle of his eye here. So we'll use some short little lines with our brown. Can we see okay to it? Make some short little lines come out from the back of his eye, just like it's going back here to his back. And where else? We see some really light brown. Remember how light we were pressing on the top of the limb here? Underneath his beak right here, we can press really lightly. Hold your pencil, barely hold your pencil. If you don't grip your pencil tight, you can't press hard. Give us just a little bit of light brown right there under his eye. Can we see that? See my light brown right there under his eye? Okay. Now I thought this was kind of cool. Looks like he's got like a little ring of brown feathers coming in here, doesn't it? Like at the bottom of his head. So think of making a curve, but instead of our pencil line, whoops, I need to put this down, don't I? Sorry, Jeff. See how we have this curve of brown feathers? They like curve right at the bottom of his head here. This becomes his head. But instead of making a curved line this way, I thought of a curve and I made my little lines go along that curve. So I'm going to think of a curve right here, and I'm going to put a few little lines, little short lines, so they go in a little curve there. He's looking kind of cute. I'm going to make another little curve. We're going to have a little bit of brown feathers filling in on his back here. So we'll make a few little brown feathers come down here towards his wing. You notice I'm not making long strokes. He's a little tiny bird, so he's got some short little feathers on him. Now on top of his back we can just color like this because his back's pretty solid brown. I can press harder up here at the top of his back because I want this to be a little darker than how we were pressing here. So I'm going to fill in some more brown here. And remember how we left this white swoop over his eye? Pretty much his whole back gets brown, so I can fill this brown in. We want to leave that little streak by his eye, but I can fill this in. Now, what other color do you see? You see another color in here besides brown? See a little bit of orange tinge to that brown? We're going to add a little orange on top of that brown. So I don't have to, I can leave a little bit of white paper showing. I'm going to fill in most of his wing here with brown. Going to make it more, I'm going to press harder out here at the tip so it's a little darker. And on his tail, I'm only going to start out by putting brown up here at the end of his tail. come up here and just put some brown at the end of his tail. Okay? So we're going to leave him like that for a minute. I'm going to take my orange back out. And I'm going to add some orange on top of his back. Oh, look at that. I'm coloring right on top of where I put the brown, on top of his back there, so he gets just a little hint of orange. I'm going to give him a little hint of orange in his wings too. Oh, I like that. I like the little hint of orange on him. I'm not going to put any orange by his head because his head's mostly brown and white. I might put a little of this light brown coming in here. There we go. Do you see? I added a little light brown, barely pressed, because I really want this white streak to show up, but down here I want him to have a little hint of brown. Okay. I'm going to put the rest of his tail in here in orange. Oh, that's really bright. But you know what's going to make it not look so bright? I'm going to fill it in an orange. And since Carolina Wren isn't really got bright colors on him, after I put some orange on, I'm going to come over it with some brown. Aha! Okay, so we're getting this nice kind of orangey brown color to his tail. We can give him a little orange on his legs. Actually going to add some black on top of this. Now, we got a black in your colored pencil. See my black? So I'm going to come in here on the right side of his leg, put a little black on. I'm going to go over some of that orange with my black so his legs aren't quite so bright. Just right at the tip of his claws here, they can get really black at the tip of his claws. Okay. His beak is kind of a gray-black color. You see this? So I'm going to not press very hard with my black colored pencil, okay? I'm going to come on his beak, but I'm going to hold my colored pencil very lightly, and I'm going to press very lightly with my black. So it almost comes out looking like a gray color. If you don't press the black very hard, it's going to be gray. Okay, you might want to keep coloring on your bird some more. You can give him some little curved stripes in his tail. Think of having a curve here, but put the curve on with short little lines. You can make a kind of like a zigzag line with your black. Give it some little curves. You can give him some little black lines on his wings too. Sometimes he gets some little black spotted spots on his wings. I want to show you something fun to do with our tree though. And then you'll be able to use your colored pencils when we're all done too and color as much as you like. I used my blue colored pencil and laid my blue colored pencil on its side like this. And if you lay the pencil on its side and very lightly, you can go around in a few spots and just give a hint of a blue sky. That's a lot of sky. And you don't want to have to color that whole sky. But we just need to give the impression that their sky is there. So I just went in a few spots with my pencil right on its side like this, so the colored pencil was on its side. And I just put a little blue in a few spots. So I haven't colored the whole sky. I don't want to make it really dark because I want the bird to shine. But that gives just a little impression of a sky. See how it's just barely there, but it gives you a little impression of sky. The one thing I do want to show you is down here. The one thing I do want to show you is we're going to give the impression that our tree has some leaves and flowers on it. Now, right now on my drawing, it looks like a wintertime tree. It looks like nothing's on there, right? So I'm going to take my Sharpie and I'm going to give the impression of leaves. If I was drawing a leaf, if I was going to actually draw a leaf, I got a piece of scrap paper here. I'm going to show you a couple things. If I was drawing a leaf, lots of times I use a shape like a football and draw a leaf like this, right? Now we could go around on our tree and draw all kinds of leaves like this and then color them in. One, that would take us forever. And two, would start getting so many lines over here that your drawing would be so busy that you wouldn't even notice your bird. So this looks like a clump of leaves, right? I'm just going to give the impression of a clump of leaves by putting a few of those lines and not putting all those lines in. So if these were twig limbs coming out, this would be full of leaves, right? So I'm going to come over here and just give a few. Every once in a while I'll make a whole leaf. But I'm just going to give a bunch of little curved lines. Every once in a while make one that hooks together. But then just give a bunch of little curved lines. Make a few that hook together. But then just give the impression that we got lots of leaves out here. Do you notice how they're not hooking to the limb? This is going to be so full of leaves that we wouldn't see all the tiny little twigs that hook together. I'm going to put a few over here. So I'm just making some curved lines to give the impression of leaves. Now, do you see on my drawing here how I got the impression of some flowers too? Looks like kind of a flowering bush, doesn't it? This is fun. We don't need to draw the whole flower. If I was drawing a really pretty flower, I might be making all kinds of petals in my flower that would look kind of like that. Right? Does that look like pretty, like a little azalea flower blooming? That would take a long time to go draw all those little flowers. So, since they're kind of curvy, curly, cuey little lines, I'm going to make squiggles. See my squiggles? I'm just going to squiggle with my Sharpie in a few places. I'm going to make them small so they look like little leaves or little flowers on my tree. But I'm going to squiggle some lines. I'm making little curly Q lines. Make a few little curly Qs in a few places. I'm literally just making little curly Qs. So I got a few little curly Qs in a few places. That's all I need. Now that gives me the impression that I have this nice flowering tree here, right? I can use remember, press really lightly at the top of the tree limb and darker at the bottom of the tree limb. Light at the top of the tree limb and press harder as you get to the bottom of the tree limb. Light, barely press at the top of the tree limb. And press a little darker at the bottom of the tree limb. And press a little darker on the bottom. So you can keep coloring with colored pencils. I'm going to real quickly show you a little bit with doing the leaves and the flowers. You guys can keep coloring and just watch. You don't have to try to color as fast as I am. But I want to show you a couple things before we stop so you can just keep coloring. I did use a little bit of the black. And I didn't press very hard. But right down here at the bottom of the limb, I put just a little bit of black. Kind of really helped give it that nice three-dimensional look. Don't have to do it everywhere. But I like how three-dimensional that made it. You don't have to put the black everywhere. And we've got 2 shades green in your colored pencils. Did you notice that? We have this one that looks like a darker green, and we have this one that looks like a yellow green. See our 2 colored pencils? This is the one, surprisingly, it just says green. This is the one that looks kind of bluish when we use it. I'm going to use the yellow-green one first. See where it says yellow-green on it? So this is the fun part. See my impression of a tree? I don't have to worry about drawing right inside any of those lines I made. The lines are helping give the impression, and I can color just all kinds of places. I can take my green and just color all kinds of places around where the leaves would go. Leave some white spaces so we can put our flowers in there. We can color right up next to where the limbs are because we know we'd have leaves all over the place. But you can really just fill in your space, leave some white. That's what's so fun about an impressionistic tree here. We don't need the whole thing to be solid. Trees don't look solid anyway when you look at them, do they? You get to see little peaks of sky showing through where your leaves are. So we don't want to color everything in anyway, because leaves don't make a solid mass like a box. They're kind of eerie, and you see through them, and you see peaks of sky or peaks of flowers through them. So you can put a little bit of green in some places. This is fun. This is just like scribbling. And actually, scribbling works really well to give impressions of things. We don't want it to be too perfect. We want to give the impression we've got lots of leaves going on here. So we're going to color in a few more little areas of leaves. Is he sleeping? Okay, I'm going to add a few more little leaves. I'm going to make a few peek up behind my bird here, just so it doesn't look like they're all underneath the tree limb. I'd add a few more over here, but we can do that later. Let me show you this other color green. Where'd my other green go? Here it is. This is the one that says green on it. It's kind of a bluish green, like a teal color. See? Look at that. So I think that's kind of a bluish teal color green. This is the one that's called green. But I kind of like it because leaves are never just, when you look at a tree, they don't look like one solid color green, do they? They have lots of different shades that show. So you can come around here and just add some spots of another shade of green to your leaves. It looks really cool when you put it over the top of the yellow green. Then it looks like a really nice green. By itself on the white paper, it looks a little bit blue, kind of teal colored. But on top of the other green, you get a really neat green color. So add some little touches of your other green. And then you can pick whatever kind of flower you want. I used the red. I think that's the red-orange that I used. You could use blue. You could use purple. What if we used, what is this? This says blue. I don't think we've used this one yet. Here's my blue. Do you want to see what it looks like? Maybe I'll have some blue flowers. Ooh, those look pretty. So I'm just going to, just like I made curlicues in some places, I can make flowers in places that I didn't draw a curlicue, and I can color some of my curlicues. So there's my blue. What about the purple? Could we have some purple flowers? Could my tree have different shades of flowers on it? Well, I don't know in real life if you'd see different shades on one tree, but since we're the artist, we can create our own hybrid of tree here. So my tree is going to have blue and purple. I might even throw some red flowers in here. How about some red flowers? We'll even pull some red flowers in here. I do like the red. I think the red pops nicely. Looks like a nice colorful tree here, doesn't it? So you can create whatever breed of tree you're going to make here. See how I'm just coloring curlicues here? I don't even have to worry about where I had curlicues colored. We've given an impression of a tree here, so you can add pops of color wherever you would like it, and your eye's gonna see it as a flowering tree. We did just enough to give the impression that's what our tree was doing. So there's my fat, chubby little bird here. The last thing I would do is probably give a little bit of sky. Remember how I laid the pencil down flat? Hold it back here at the end of the pencil and keep it flat against your paper. And we can go up near the bird. You can leave lots of white spaces when you're putting a sky in because it'll just look like wispy clouds, right? See, we have a very wispy, cloudy day on our little bird here. Put some right down here, underneath him maybe. I keep bumping Mr. Joey's camera, sorry. If my picture jiggles, it's not Mr. Joey, it's me. Okay. So we get just a little hint of sky up there. Maybe we'll put a little hint down here. Oh, Mr. Mark wants us to put purple in the sky. So I could take my purple and hold it flat against the paper, hold it down here at the back of the colored pencil. It makes it easier. We can put a little hint of purple in the sky. Oh, look at that. That makes a pretty sky. And we're going to end up with a really nice springtime picture here between my blue and purple and red flowers in the bush and my purple and blue sky. I think this will be a very cheery picture to have. It will definitely make it feel like it's springtime in your house. If you know somebody that's stuck in their house all by themselves and is getting lonely, you think this would be a good picture to go leave on their front porch for them. This would make them smile, wouldn't it? Look at all those pretty colors. Okay, so you could put it in the mail and send to your grandparents. Sarah Elizabeth could leave hers with Dad. Mom will have one. Look at that pretty sky. Good idea, Mr. Mark. The purple made a pretty sky. So here's my two birds. Can you see him, Mr. Joey? This bird's definitely fatter than that bird, but I like him. He turned out okay. Usually when you draw something, it never looks the same twice when you draw it, and that's what makes it fun. So Mr. Joey's going to pull our camera back. I'm going to prop our birds up here so you can see them. And be sure and take some pictures. I want to see what your birds turned out like. I want to see what kinds of flowers that you have on your bushes, what color your sky looked. If you had a really fat bird like mine, or maybe your bird had gone on a diet. So take some pictures. Be sure and tag us with that little @ Idea Studio. Take a picture, post it, tag us so I can see it. We can see what all our birds look like. Tomorrow we're going to use our colored pencils, or if you've got your oil pastels at home, we might use those, or if you've got markers at home, we could use those. We're going to do a very goofy picture tomorrow, and we're going to pretend we're on a picnic eating watermelon, and the ants are going to invade us. So we'll do a kind of silly picture tomorrow, and we can use whatever you've got for color at your house. Crayons, oil pastels, colored pencils, markers, whatever you want. And don't forget to take a picture so I can see your pictures. And anything else I need to remind you of? Don't forget to order your bags, because I have stacks of canvases that you can't see right behind the camera on my table. And we're putting canvases and paint and brushes in your activity bags next week so we can paint together. Okay? We will see you tomorrow. Bye.